Remember when you were a kid how excited you were when the teacher announced the big test was going to be true or false? You might not be as excited about this true or false test, particularly a false positive on a drug test. Hi, my name's Mike and I'm with Health Research Systems. We've been in the drug testing industry for over 28 years and we're doing these short videos so employers can utilize them in a daily safety meeting or settings where time is short in order to still get the information out there about the company's drug-free workplace program. And this is video number 4 in our employer training series, and today we're going to talk about false positives. The number one reason why we hear so much about false positive drug screens is this. I hate to have to be the one to point this out, but sometimes people aren't exactly truthful and they test positive on a drug test and swear on the grave of every family member they can think of that they're innocent and it was a false positive on their drug test, when actually they were truly positive and denied it to try to save their job and reputation. Reason number 2 might have been a prescription med that needs verified, and reason number 3, other compounds that have cross-reacted with the initial screen. Most people tend to think that false positive drug test results are more common than they actually are. Statistically, there are only a few instances where false positives are actually recorded, and false negatives are actually much more common. Typically, drug testing involves the use of a urine sample, but other forms of testing, such as the use of hair and saliva samples, are continuing to gain momentum. In extreme instances, such as vehicular accidents and other cases, authorities may and often do require the testing of a blood sample. According to statistics, drug tests producing a true false positive result, they only rarely occur. However, drug tests resulting in a false negative result occur about 10 to 15% of the time. So I'll explain this later. In accordance with federal workplace guidelines, there are 5 common categories of drugs most employers and laboratories are required to test for. These are amphetamines and methamphetamine, MDMA or ecstasy, cocaine, marijuana or THC, opiates and synthetic opiates, and phencyclidine or PCP. Along with these 5, there are several other categories included in some tests that are not regulated by the US DOT. These other categories include barbiturates, designer drugs like bath salts, K2, spice, benzodiazepines like Valium or Xanax, alcohol, prescription opiates like hydrocodone or oxycodone, and methadone. While false positives results are not common, there are 3 possible causes of a false positive result from urine sample testing. Let's talk about prescription drugs first. The presence of prescription drugs in a person's system may be one of the most common reasons for a quote-unquote false positive test result. There are many different prescription medications that can lead to a false positive reading. However, the main problem is that many of these medications have a very high potential for abuse and as such are a target of most forms of drug testing. Should a person who legally takes one or more of these medications show a positive test result, the results themselves are accurate. And upon presentation of a valid prescription for these medications, and in some cases a doctor okaying the performance of safety-sensitive tasks, the MRO or medical review officer will mark that test result as showing a false positive. And they are legally allowed to have those prescribed medications in their system and cannot be penalized. However, if a valid prescription is not available, the MRO must assume that the positive result is accurate and the person is taking the medications illegally. In this case, the MRO must report these kinds of facts to the person's employer or the proper authorities. The list of these drugs is exhaustive and may include strong drugs such as morphine used for pain control and many other prescription painkillers. Many highly addictive drugs like these are frequently the target of urine drug testing. If the person undergoing a drug test is currently taking one of these medications or has had them administered by a medical professional and turns up with a positive result, they must be able to provide documentation showing the drugs were legally prescribed and administered. Now, provided the person can show proof of a prescription, the MRO will record the results as a false positive and report to the employer with a negative reading. But here again, if the proper medical documentation is not available, the report will show a true positive and will be sent to the person's employer. Medications typically associated with false positive results, well, there are several of them. both over-the-counter and prescription, which are typically associated with false positive drug test results. Some of these drugs include antihistamines, antidepressants, antibiotics, analgesics, antipsychotics, decongestants, and many other prescribed type medications. This occurs because of a cross-reaction between substances. Though not common, there are occasions when a drug test identifies certain normal legal substances as one of the various targeted drugs during a urine test. Experts in the field refer to these materials as being cross-reactive. Substances such as these bear an extremely close resemblance to drugs that are a target of the testing process, which should not be present. These cross-reactive chemicals come in a variety of forms, such as over-the-counter medications and certain food items, such as poppy seeds, that give a false positive result, as they are very, very close in composition to opioids. In the past, this type of false positive was relatively common, but due to advances in the testing processes, the number of false positive results from cross-reactive substances have become far less common. Today's testing standards include much higher cutoff concentrations that are high enough not to register occasional usage or food consumption. And the use of confirmatory testing has almost eliminated this type of false positives. The chances are almost zero. Typically, when someone receives a positive result today, it means the person has abuse level consumption issues and needs to seek professional help. Let's talk about false negatives. Some standard drug tests record false negatives, particularly for synthetic opioid abuse. For example, standard drug tests have a high rate of false negative results for oxycodone, such as OxyContin, Percolone, Roxicodone. These drugs are known to have a very high abuse rate, and in many cases, unfortunately, the person whose urine is undergoing testing will not show a positive result because the right test was not requested. One study showed that at least 88% of doctors here in the U.S. had no idea they needed to order a very specific drug screening test used just to detect synthetic opiates like oxycodone. Should you be concerned about a false positive drug test result? If you're taking prescription medications or have recently undergone a medical procedure such as a surgery that required the administration of medications and you can provide the appropriate documentation, clearly you have nothing to worry about. Having your prescription information readily available is always a best practice. What should you do if your test results come back positive? First, remain calm when receiving your drug test results. If your drug test results come back positive, the MRO will contact you. Should the results show the use of any type of prescription medication, the MRO will require you to provide the proper documentation that proves you're under the care of a physician and that you're taking this medication under his advisement. You will also have the option in some cases to have a reserved portion of the original specimen known as the split specimen tested by another lab if needed. In 28 years in the drug testing industry, I have yet to see a true false positive when a company has a properly designed quality program utilizing a good third-party administrator, a SAMHSA certified lab that not only screens for the drugs of abuse, but utilizes the GCMS confirmation protocols on all positive test results and also uses a certified MRO. Well, that's our training for today, and we look forward to working with you to have a safer, more productive workplace. This is Mike with Health Research Systems, and we offer drug testing programs and background checks to companies of all sizes. If you have any questions, you can email us at info@healthresearchsystems.com. That's info@healthresearchsystems.com. Hit the like and subscribe button so you will know when we release the next video in this training series, and thanks for watching.